Welcome to your intelligence briefing. A former senior U.S. defense official, Drew Thompson, has just published a highly unusual piece. Instead of a standard policy analysis, he shares firsthand details his own personal interactions with Zhang Youxia, one of China's most senior military leaders, now under investigation. Today, I want to walk you through what Thompson actually wrote, what he personally observed through years of direct contact, and why those observations matter for understanding what's happening inside China's military leadership right now. Before we get into what Drew Thompson wrote, it's important to understand why his voice carries unusual weight in this context. Thompson is not a casual commentator. He is a former senior U.S. defense official who served as director for China, Taiwan, and Mongolia in the Office of the Secretary of Defense. He spent years directly engaged with the PLA's foreign-facing officers, managed high-level military exchanges, responsible for assessing China's real military capabilities, not the slogans. That's why this piece stands out. This weekend, Beijing announced that Central Military Commission Vice Chairman is under investigation for what it called serious violations of discipline and law. In a piece published on January 26, Thompson opens with a personal reaction. He writes, and I'm quoting directly, "I was genuinely surprised and frankly shocked by the announcement on Saturday that Central Military Commission, CMC, Vice Chairman Zhang is under investigation and presumably detained. I should not have been surprised." That contradiction matters. He immediately places it in context. Hundreds of Senior People's Liberation Army, PLA officers have been investigated, detained, and imprisoned since Xi came to power in 2012. What Thompson is signaling here is not that Zhang's case breaks the rules of the system, but that prior assumptions about who was protected no longer apply. Thompson then addresses the most obvious explanation, corruption, in a very specific way. Corruption is endemic in the PLA, giving Xi Jinping a perpetual and universal anti-corruption tool to purge politically suspect officers from the ranks. This is not a moral judgment, it's a structural observation. He's saying corruption doesn't explain why someone is removed, it explains how removal is always possible. Thompson then explains his own prior assessment. "I assessed that Zhang Youxia's combat experience, his self-confidence, intellect, and lifelong commitment to the defense of China and the Communist Party would protect him. And more importantly, I thought that his lifelong relationship with Xi Jinping would be his insurance." This matters because it tells us something about how informed observers had been modeling Xi's internal decision-making, competence, loyalty, personal history. None of those proved sufficient. Thompson then moves into first-hand experience. He explains that the PLA is fundamentally political in nature. The PLA is a political organization. It is the armed wing of the Communist Party. It is not a national army sworn to protect the Constitution or the country. Within that system, Zhang stood out, had seen combat, and been humbled by it. He is educated, intellectual, intuitive. Thompson emphasizes not ideology but capability, and then he reaches the strategic core of his concern. "I think he was the one active duty PLA officer who could give Xi the best, most objective advice about PLA military capabilities, including the PLA's shortcomings, and crucially, the human cost of military conflict." This is not praise for Zhang's politics. It's an assessment of what kind of advice reached the top. Thompson closes with a sentence that is carefully phrased but unmistakable. "Without Zhang on the CMC, the risk of miscalculation goes up. He does not predict conflict. He does not speculate about motives. He flags risk. That leaves us with a forward-looking question. If someone like Zhang could be removed, what does that do to the internal advisory environment at the very top?" Now, let's widen the lens. This concern is not limited to Drew Thompson. In recent coverage by The Economist, its China specialists raised similar alarms not about intent, but about institutional hollowing at the top of China's military. Beijing's announcement says,
Vice Chairman of the Central Military Commission, Zhang Youxia, and member of the Central Military Commission, Chief of the Joint Staff Department of the Central Military, Liu Zhenli, are suspected of serious violations of discipline and law. After research and decision by the party Central Committee, an investigation has been launched into Zhang Youxia and Liu Zhenli.
the phrase is familiar. The details are not. An editorial in the PLA's official newspaper points to corruption, impaired combat readiness, and undermining Xi Jinping's authority. That combination matters. Let's connect a few facts. Fact 1. Zhang was one of the last senior PLA officers with real combat experience and deep operational credibility. Fact 2. The Central Military Commission is now reportedly reduced to Xi Jinping and one other uniformed officer, a career political commissar focused on discipline, not warfighting. Fact 3. This consolidation is happening as Xi approaches two sensitive timelines, the 2027 military capability benchmark and a major party leadership cycle where stability is paramount. Put together, this doesn't tell us what will happen. It tells us where pressure is building. This isn't about aggression. It's about information flow. Fewer experienced voices mean less internal disagreement, more filtered advice, and greater confidence in untested assumptions. Some international reports have floated highly sensitive allegations, including intelligence-related claims. There is no independent confirmation, and multiple longtime PLA experts remain skeptical. What matters more than those claims is the effect they produce: speculation, uncertainty, and internal caution. This is a sensitive issue in policy circles, and analysts are careful for good reason. The real signals won't come from headlines. They'll come from who is promoted, what kind of background those figures have, whether operational messaging changes, and whether loyalty language begins to outweigh capability language. The central issue here isn't why Zhang Youxia fell. It's what his absence removes from the system. In highly centralized environments, miscalculation doesn't usually come from recklessness. It comes from silence, conformity, and distorted feedback. So the key question isn't what Beijing announces next. It's who Xi Jinping hears next and what kind of advice they are structurally able to give. That's the signal professionals will be watching. I'm Eric Chen. This has been your intelligence briefing. If you support this format, I'll keep pushing toward a more frequent cadence, ideally daily, while still keeping the background and context deep enough to be worth your time. There are more in-depth analyses on this unfolding situation available across the channel. You're welcome to click through to watch or listen to those briefings. See you around.